removing friction from our lives. And the first thing that I think about is our vocabulary. No longer will you have the word digital divide.
Which future technologies are expected to change the way we work and live?
Always an exciting question, an exciting topic. When you think about the future technologies, the first one is really a category. I think when you talk about metaverse technologies, it's fundamentally about blending the physical world with the virtual world, and all these technologies being able to create a new environment for us to experience. This, I think, is fundamentally super exciting and a game changer. The second one that's also really important is when you think about extending that to real and existing environments, you think about human avatars. And the reason that's so important is because now, if I'm in a digital world, avatars will give me the ability to actually be able to have an experience in the physical world in existing environments, not necessarily new ones. The last one, I think fundamentally, in my opinion, will be the most dramatic and the most productive technology we've seen in quite some time. And that is natural language processing. What does that mean? That fundamentally means that at the end of the day, you will be able to talk in your native language. I can talk in my language, and we will be able to understand each other, ultimately fully unlocking the power of the human potential to collaborate.
What would a seamless society look like?
When you think of a seamless society, it's ultimately about removing friction from our lives. And the first thing that I think about is our vocabulary. No longer will you have the word digital divide. Why? Because you have a situation with digital air where when you walk around, you have connectivity. Whether you're in Africa or you're in Silicon Valley, you have the same access to connectivity to drive innovation and really fuel the core source of education in an economy. Nextly, you think about the word unemployment. Well, unemployment is because we don't know how to fully, efficiently allocate supply with demand. In a seamless society, you have the ability to engage and disengage resources dynamically because you have this common pool of data, this source of data that is so intelligent, it's able to match supply with demand. Lastly, I think about basic human needs, the ability to eat, the ability to sleep, the ability to have access to water. All of these things can be solved because we can remove the information friction, the economic friction, the educational friction. All of these things in a seamless society is what basically at the heart of what NEOM is trying to achieve.
How can a digital twin help create sustainable economic opportunities and improve citizen services?
When you think about creating value for citizens, the first thing that's really, really fundamental is you have to have data. No trust means you don't get data. No data means no value. It is just that simple. In order to create value, the first thing that has to happen is it applies this fundamental concept of trust. Once you have trust, then you can then create very unique opportunities and economic value associated with data and insight. But at the heart of that process is the ability to solve what I like to call the privacy paradox. Each of us are giving more and more and more of our information each and every day, but yet each of us are concerned with how our data is going to be used more and more in each and every day. Why do we do this? Because value in this world is contextually based. It's directly proportional, privacy is directly proportional to the value I receive. And that value I define by how much trust do I have in you versus the reward of how much experience, how much utility I get. This is fundamentally so important to solving and creating economic value as we think about building a cognitive city.
How is the convergence of multiple exponential technologies impacting us?
When you think about these technologies that are converging upon us, it fundamentally, I think, has reshaped and redefined our relationships, whether it's our relationships with one another. If you think about, I recall during COVID, when the first time we figured out that we couldn't go out and actually see other people, right? They said, well, you got to quarantine. Yeah, what does that mean? Well, that means you're spending weeks, if not months, inside your house with an inability to connect with someone. And then something happened. Then everybody got on their favorite collaboration tools. And I saw people in my family that I hadn't seen in 15 years. And all of a sudden, we were getting on these calls where there wasn't just 4 or 5 of us we would meet in person. There'd be 50 or 100. And so one of the core things is it's redefining our relationship with one another. It's also redefined our relationship with nature. If you think about how we treat nature and global warming and how technology's impact is, we have completely changed our expectations. It's not simply good enough anymore to have a neutral impact. No, we want to enhance the environment. And lastly, it's redefined our relationships, quite frankly, with technology, right? How we interact and what we expect of technology has completely changed.
How will Tonomus fuel innovation and economic development?
When you think about innovation and economic development, constraints are what typically comes to mind. We're constrained in this world today with labor. We're constrained in this world today around land, and we're constrained in this world today with capital. In a digital environment, if you think about labor, you can have a 6-year-old kid to a 95-year-old retired individual be able to come online and think of their concepts and quickly create products, services, innovations, games, ways of interacting in a digital environment. When you think about land, not an issue in a digital world. We can create as much of it as we need, not a limitation. And when you think about capital, most folks around the world have access, in many cases, to some type of electronic medium. A phone is good enough to be able to interact and experience the metaverse of this digital world. So how does it fundamentally reshape or create value? By, quite frankly, eliminating the core elements of friction that exist today around land, around labor, and around capital.